Hey, what's going on? This is Leah from Eagle Magazine. We're here right now today with the author as well as the businessman to know, Mr. Ernest Ruffin Jr. We're going to talk about a couple of things that we believe you guys should know, especially in the industry as well as out of the industry. So, Mr. Ernest, once again, thank you for meeting with us today.
No problem. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We're going to jump into a few things. We're definitely going to get into your book, Growing a Business on $363 a Week. Tell us how you started that.
Well, I started that, like I was saying, I've started like 3 companies, and I was working as I also was running my business, and I was working for this technology company who wanted me to develop the New York City territory from around the financial industry, to put some technology consultants on the site. And I was working Merrill Lynch and other accounts, but Merrill Lynch I had a couple of relationships in. So I was working it real hard, and the day I got the business, I got fired.
Okay.
So when I got fired, as I said earlier, they were trying to get the business without me and underestimated the power of relationships. I called the dude and said, look, I'm no longer with them, so it's your decision what you want to do, but I'm not there to support the account. Right. And you're used to working with me. He's like, no, it's just done. It's not going to happen because we did this deal based on you, not them.
Exactly.
So then I had to file for unemployment. So I went from a 6-figure base salary to after filing for unemployment to take care of my family and work my business. Right. And that number was $363 a week.
Right.
So that was my unemployment number, weekly benefit.
Check, right.
So that's how I came with the title Growing the Business on $363 a week, because that was my unemployment figure.
Okay.
And so I kept working that, kept my household in place, and was working my business. And it was tough, but you have to have a lot of relationships in place and leverage those relationships. And those relationships don't have to be all the time high power relationships. They could be, your church minister, people you work with, school teachers. Everyone has extended relationships and know a lot of different people who probably can help you if you just talk to them and tell them what you're doing, So it talks about things like that. And it talks about the lessons I've learned along the way in business. I talked to you earlier about my sports agency.
Right.
I actually grew that business too fast.
Okay.
I went from 0 clients to 13 clients in 13 months.
Okay.
Right, all over the country, and and it was just me.
Mm-hmm.
So your customer service kind of suffers.
Right.
Especially with your lesser known players. In other words, I had 5 or 6, very well known players, and then I had maybe 6 or so a little lesser known players, but. Trust me, everybody who plays professional sports is a superstar in their own mind.
Exactly.
And they want to be treated that way. And so your customer service kind of slips if you're trying to do too much. So I should have probably brought somebody on and, let them be one-on-one with those other 6 more. And that's a lesson learned, and that's what I share with,
So with the $363.
Yes.
How was you able to stretch that? Like, most of us been on unemployment before, right. And that's just literally living check to check.
That's
you know what I'm saying?
exactly
So how was you able to stretch that to still maintain your family as well as a business?
It was difficult.
I can imagine.
At the time I was married, so my wife still worked. And the difficult thing is, explaining to her, listen, we got to cut back a little bit here because, I'm on unemployment and I'm still running my business because in the long haul, this is really what's going to take care of us.
Right.
And so you cut back on things, if you didn't take vacations and things like that, you just make sure you pay your main bills,
Right.
Keep your house going, you keep your electric and stuff going. And always got to keep your cell phone on because that's how you run everything,
exactly.
Right? So you take care of your essentials. I mean, it's it gets difficult. It's not as easy because
you're not used
to. I mean, again, I went from $120,000 base salary plus commissions to $1,200 a week,
right.
A month, or $1,300 a month, or whatever that comes out to, 363. So it's difficult.
Okay.
But then you leverage your relationships, and then you use technology. Technology will allow you to look like you're a lot bigger company, and you can become a lot more efficient than you really realize. And so when I say technology, I mean applications like Outlook to manage your calendar,
right.
In your meetings and your email and your Word documents and PowerPoint, And then in the book, I share how I have meetings with Hollywood executives, strategic meetings, and you can't look crazy.
Exactly.
You know.
You have to look
But if I
hard.
take you to Starbucks, that's pretty acceptable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chic, normally in nice places, correct?
Right.
And I may spend $10.
Mm-hmm.
Buy you a cup of coffee. Maybe you want a cookie. Right?
Espresso, you know, something.
But we're sitting here having this strategic meeting about a multi-million-dollar deal,
Right.
movie, reality TV show, whatever it is, and I spend $10.
Okay.
You know, so things like that. You know, so you don't. You know, if I can't take you out to an expensive lunch or dinner, but that Starbucks meeting still is. You know, it
It's
looks
exceptional
yes,
as well.
yes,
Yeah.
as well, and it's acceptable.
So now the success of the book, how's that going?
It's going pretty good. You know, of course, we want to sell more books.
Of course.
You get them on our website at www.ecsmg.com. They're $9.99. You know,
Okay.
the cost of a Starbucks coffee probably a couple of them $9.99.
With a cookie.
And a cookie.
Right.
And I was just telling Chris I was waiting. I got it early for my last meeting.
Mhm.
One got me a Starbucks and a cookie.
And a
So
cookie.
it cost me $5.78.
Okay.
So,
But if it's two,
yeah,
then
you
it-
got $11.
exactly. We're close to the $10
Yeah.
mark.
So, so it's doing well. It's getting the word out, talking to people like you guys, and getting in magazines and online social networks and things like that, so that it can grow. And it's really a guide. It's a guide for entrepreneurs, aspiring business owners, people who teach business,
Okay.
to share some of my experiences. It talks about how I went head to head against Magic Johnson in the deal and won. It talked about how I told you guys earlier about my big corporate deal that I closed years ago. But the deal was so strategic that for NCR, the company I work for, Sealand Services, the company I was providing technology to, and Microsoft, that Bill Gates was there.
Exactly.
The CEO of Sealand and NCR were all there when we finalized that deal. That's how strategic it was,
Okay.
because Microsoft was just putting out their NT product, and that was very strategic for them to get in the back office as opposed to being in the front office. And what I mean by that is they're always on the desktop, your laptop, your
Right.
desktop. You see your office and windows. But in the back office, with the big servers and the big companies, the big machines that run your businesses,
Yeah.
that's IBM's digital world back then. That was IBM and DEC.
Right.
So that was Microsoft's chance to play back in the back, where the big guys really play. I mean, they had the front captured. So that's why, Gates and Ballmer showed up, Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer, because it was strategic and it was global.
Okay.
So, I share that type of stuff
Okay.
in the book, that you could do it. Just a small guy from the hood.
From the hood.
So
So now we're gonna get into your hood economics.
Hood Economics is a social network that I started. Well, ECSMG Consulting is a marketing firm, the marketing firm to the stars. So we do a lot of celebrity golf events. We do product placements in movies and reality shows. We have those capabilities. And in working with celebrities and people and young people, I saw a need for an online social network where business owners can get together and collaborate and share information.
Okay.
So for example, if someone wanted to start a magazine, and they hit me all the time, well, Ruff, how do we start a magazine? I would say, call Leah,
And email.
and here's her email address, and talk to her and Chris about it, because that's what they do. That's not what I do.
Okay.
So, and then you guys would connect and discuss that, and maybe you could work together. And they could be in Detroit, or they could be in Los Angeles, or any place in the country or the world for that matter.
Okay.
Allows you to collaborate. You can work together on projects, whatever. So that's what started Hood Economics.
Okay.
So if you go to www.hoodeconomix.com, you can. It's free to join, and you can put up your company, you put up your magazine cover, whatever you like, and you will get hit up. We might have like 700 members,
Okay.
and it's not a year old yet. I think next month it'll be a year old.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Happy early birthday to the hood economics. So now with the hood economics and then the book, your company in general, Is it